it was basically relief. I'm back, I finally get my shot, and even though I think it's probably, you know what I mean, 7, 8, 10 years overdue, but I had a shot, and that's what I was after.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Tungsten Talk here on Pluto TV. I'm Paul the Asset Nicholson, and today we've got a very special episode for you because I have decided to wear my Bryan Adams denim jacket for good reason, because we are here with the silencer Jeff Smith. Jeff, always great to speak to you. You're a good friend, you're an incredible competitor, and I want you to tell us where darts really started for you back in Canada.
To be honest, it was my grandfather got me into the game, and started off playing youth darts. Obviously went through the Canadian youth system, and it just kind of spawned off into here we are now.
What kind of years are we looking at here? What kind of period in the sport are we looking at when you were in youth darts?
Yeah, I won my first provincial championship at 14, and then I won every year after that till I was 19. Got into the adult nationals, didn't fail to make the adult nationals the next year, but took out Canadian number one. I think it was Carl Mercer at that time to make Team Canada. Played the World Masters for the first time, would have been 1996. So it's just kind of, I've always just played wherever the game has led me.
Tell us what it was like when John Park won the World Championship in 1994, because from our perspective on this side of the pond, it felt like that was a landmark moment for darts outside of Europe, never mind North America.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to happen, and it did. And John came out of nowhere, and that's, I kind of mimicked my game after him, and it's the finishing, because he was always so clutch when it came to a double. And when he had the opportunity, he took it, but he had the whole nation on his back, and we were all cheering for him. Moving
forward, it would take you a bit longer to break through into the bigger echelons of the game. So where did things really start to move on?
Yeah, well, I was picking up ranking tournament after ranking tournament. I think I was at one point where I was 9 years without losing a singles title in Canada, and decided I'd start shipping down to the US, playing a few of their tournaments. Was doing really well down there, and I said, well, instead of playing nationals like I do every year, maybe I'll hop on a plane and try out this Q School thing. And that was back in 2012, I think, on the advice of a couple of close friends now that said I should get over there, and the rest is history.
I'm going to take you back to 2011, which is where you and I first met. And it was a Players' Championship weekend in London, Ontario at the Hilton Hotel. And a lot of people are walking into that building thinking that the likes of Ronnie Baxter and John Parr and Jamie Caven and Wes Newton, these are the guys to beat. And little old you was on the other side of the room with a whole bunch of North Americans. At that point, were you flying under the radar and not many people were knowing who you were?
I was probably almost at the top of my game at that point. And I remember looking up the draw and seeing Paul Nicholson, oh no, I got to play number 9 in the world. But I was confident. Hopefully, like I said, just get up there and do your thing. And we had a good game. Well, I did, but we went through it, and I had a couple of good wins that round. And I also played Peter Wright the next day, and that was when he was starting to come through. Yeah, it's been kind of a roller coaster ride for me, and that was kind of really when I decided I'd give the game a go.
So Q School would come in 2012, and who was it who really convinced you to come over the pond and to make that move? Was it Darren Webster?
No, it was actually Simon Whitlock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Simon told me, he said, after I played, he watched me play Peter, I lost 6-5, had a match start, and he said, you don't understand, that guy's playing top 10 in the world darts right now, and you had him beat, and you got to get your rear end over to Q School and give it a go. If you need help, he said, you can stay at my house the whole bit, like Simon does. And like I said, I decided, okay, I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to hop on a plane and go.
Do you remember who you beat en route to getting that tour card?
I beat Ross Smith 6-1 in the final.
Sounds pretty good considering where he's at right now, but I suppose that proves that your career can have different stages. So you beat Ross, but being able to use that tour card fully, it wasn't something you could do at that point, right?
Yeah, it was impossible for me. My real reason that I went to Q School was I get to play with John Parr in the World Cup. So as long as I won £50 on the main tour, it trumped everything back in North America. And lo and behold, I won my first game. I think I played Nigel Hayden and won that match, and that put me into the PDC World Cup, and I got to play with my hero, John Part.
What are your memories of that World Cup? Because I'm sure that when you were going into that tournament, donning the Canadian colours with the Canadian legend, that must have been an incredible moment for you.
Yeah, it's the little things. Like I said, my darts, I played well. Everything else was great, but it was the things from going to the venue, and don't use the wrong entrance, because you can't walk through the front doors with John Part, because he's a 3-time world champion. He'll get mobbed, right? And anyway, and I laughed at the exit. We were heading back to the hotel, and I think we just qualified to play into the knockout session, and beat Sweden, I think, and had Gary Anderson in our group. But when we were leaving, it was like, John's like, "Where are you going?" And he said, "You can't go through that door. We have to go the back door." And there was probably 50 people outside waiting, because that's the player's exit, and they knew it was. And I was like, "John, you're not ruining this for me." And I think I signed everybody's paper, and nobody really knew who I was. And here we are.
I think after that, everybody knew who you were, because you lost out to Wales in that World Cup. But it wouldn't be your first. You played in many others after that. Obviously, you had a great chemistry with Matt Campbell as well. But moving forward, we wouldn't see you at the Lakeside for another couple of years. So you went from playing PDC darts, and then you transcribed your career into the other side, as we used to call it. What were the decisions behind that one?
It all comes down to, that's where the darts led me. I qualified. I won a few tournaments back home, a couple of WDF that put me into the World Masters, and I said, well, I've really got nothing better to do. Let's go over and have that a go, and entered the Lakeside qualifiers, and luckily enough got through it. And that's kind of where everything really sparked for me, because it definitely opened some doors.
Yeah, debut at Lakeside. Tell us about that, because I'm sure playing at such an iconic venue, you're starting to tick things off your list here. You've come through Q School, you've played at a PDC World Cup, now you're at a World Championship at Lakeside. Tell us about the first moment walking into that iconic building, and you had a great run that year as well.
Yeah, it was crazy. You walk through the doors, you see all the pictures of all the players that are on the wall that have been in that building, and it's very nostalgic, and to be a part of that was unreal. The best part was I had Darren down with me, and Darren obviously was PDC player at that time, and it was a little bit icy between BDO and PDC, and they were like, "Are you sure you want this guy as your guest?" And I was like, "Listen, I've roomed with him, I've got to know him over the years, and he's a really good friend of mine, and that's who I'm bringing." And they said, "Okay, that's fine." Wasn't 5 minutes into the practice room, he hits a 9-darter. And Nick Kenny was there, he'll vouch for that. And anyway, it was all said and done, but he was giving me little tidbits, each player, and Wesley Harms, don't really know, you're just gonna have to outplay him type of deal. And when I played Robbie King, he said, "This guy, he works on, if he hates your guts, he's gonna absolutely destroy you, so just be nice to him." Like there's a lot of different things that he helped me out with that day in that run, and I'm forever grateful.
What did that Lakeside run do for your career? Did it give you some sort of impetus as to what you would do next?
Yeah, well, it obviously it propelled me into other situations, because like I said, I've done well. I've got through a guaranteed semifinal. That meant I get to come back again next year, which was even a better run. But like I said, and then I've qualified for Canada to get over to the World Cup, and then as soon as I didn't qualify for Lakeside, the PDC came running, and that was a big bonus for me.
Tell us about 2016, because this was one of the biggest moments of your career. I know that we've spoken personally about that week, and I won't go into the large details of what happened later in the tournament, but making the final was such an incredible thing for you. But tell us about the ups and downs of 2016, because I'm sure there being only 2 players in the practice room at the end, that must have been a very strange look.
Yeah, it was an incredible run. Like I said, that match with Richard Veenstra took the sails out of me, I think. I come off playing late at night, so hyper. I don't think I slept a wink all night, and that definitely killed me for the next day. But yeah, it was an amazing feeling, and the crowd being completely full, it was incredible.
What was the reception like from Canada and North America as a whole for you to make a final like that? Because this is not something that would have been seen much between 1994 and 2016.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I had actually won the crowd over at Lakeside, and I was playing an Englishman in Brian Dawson at that time, and I had more of the crowd supporting me than him, which is incredible considering I'm playing in England. But I just hopefully it takes to my personality, and the people enjoy watching me play darts, and I had fun.
I can vouch for that, Jeff. It's very much a personal and a professional opinion. But we're going to hear more from Jeff after the break, and we're maybe going to talk about some of the PDC stuff that he's done in his career, and we're not going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers. Welcome back to the Tungsten Talk, and yes, I'm still wearing my Bryan Adams jacket, but Jeff Smith is not wearing an Oilers jersey, which is a good thing, Jeff, because you and I have got a bit of a rivalry when it comes to ice hockey. But go Penguins.
Not this year because they're not in the playoffs, but Edmonton do.
Oh, it's so bitter, it's so bitter. Right, back to the darts. 2017, this is just before you make your debut at Alexandra Palace, where you would take on a now very famous dart player. But in 2017, something rather large happened to you in Japan. And you've told me about this trip where you became World Cup singles champion, beating a certain Series 2 champion from the MODUS Super Series, Raymond Smith, in the final. Tell us about that trip.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was a long trip because I was playing the World Masters the weekend before. So I made it my trip home to Canada because I was going to bring Rachel along with me, my wife. And for whatever reason, she couldn't go. So I flew from England to Toronto to St. John. I did my laundry at about 6 hours, back in a plane, straight to Toronto to Vancouver to Osaka. And it was like, I was literally 28 hours in the air out of a possible 32. And, but it was time change, 12 hours difference for me. But for whatever reason, it completely clicked when I was there.
That had such a profound effect because after this, you would then go back towards the PDC World Championship on a path to playing a certain Luke Humphreys. Now, first time at Alexandra Palace, how did that compare to Lakeside?
Two completely different scenarios. They're both amazing in their own right. Obviously, the nostalgia version of Lakeside is incredible, and that's going to be one of my greatest memories of all time. But Ali Pali, it's incredible. You're playing in front of 4,000 people, and it's crazy. It's a different atmosphere than I've ever experienced.
When you played at Lakeside, you mentioned that you were getting the lion's share of the crowd because of the affinity of Canadian dart players with home audiences here in the United Kingdom. Was it the same when you played Humphreys earlier in his career?
No, because we were both kind of two aspiring PDC future players and wondering how this was going to go. Probably a little bit of trivia, though. I think I'm probably the only player in PDC history that's led off first leg at Ali Pali with a 170 finish. And like I said, and my reward for beating Luke that day was to play Gary Anderson next. So it wasn't easy by any means.
You wouldn't go to Q School until 2020, where you and I did share a room, and we know plenty about what happened over the course of those 4 or 5 days. But prior to that, there's something that people who have watched your career really need to know. And that is when you went to the World Cup again in Romania in 2019, and just how well you played to win the World Cup doubles with Dave Cameron. You guys went bananas against England in that final, didn't you?
Yeah, we played Scott Mitchell in that final, I think. And I think I was averaging probably close to 112, 113 for the actual entire match. So Dave was very clutch in his finishing, especially the match before that match in the semifinal. And yeah, we steamrolled the final, and it felt really good.
You came through Q School in 2020, but around about this time, you would see the PDC try a new venture, which is taking on the North American Championship, something that you would become very adept at. You are now a 2-time champion of that. Could have been a 3-time champion had it not been for a pesky Danny Baggish in a final where you were somewhat disrupted before the final dart. But tell us about this venture in bringing darts back to North America in a big way in Vegas and now in New York. But it would propel you to going back to Ali Pali a number of times. Yeah,
it was amazing. First win in I played against John Norman Jr. in the final in New York or in Vegas, and it was great, but it didn't have the atmosphere like New York has. And what the PDC have done in New York at Madison Square Gardens, incredible. It's probably one of the best atmospheres you get in the world right now. I don't know what it is about New York, but it definitely it calls to me. I've played really, really well there. I have a lot of fans there, and it's nice when you're playing on home turf that you actually have the crowd support. So to make a couple of runs that I've done there, it's been an honor.
North American champion twice, and you've won all sorts of different tournaments in North America and around the world. I've got to ask you though, the PEI Potato Open, that is the one title that you have that is a little bit kitsch. There are some really interesting names for tournaments in North America. Is that the strangest one you've won?
Yeah, it probably is, to be honest with you. PEI is just a small area. It's a beautiful place in Canada. You've been there. But yeah, it's not a huge organization, but they put actually one of the best tournaments on in Canada. And every time you go there, you know you're going to have fun.
Why is it called the Potato Open, just out of curiosity?
Their PEI potatoes are world famous. That's Hedda McCain's in Canada, and it's basically, they're the best ones you can get.
Okay, let's get back to the darts instead of the potatoes then. Yeah. 2020, you come through Q School. You and I shared that experience. Tell us about what that Q School was like, because this was before they had two different Q Schools. We walked into the Robin Park Tennis Centre in Wigan, and the queue to get into that place on day one was out the door, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I think there was something like 1,100 players trying to get through for about, I don't know, 16, 18 tour cards, and it was insane. There was so many good players there, but there was also a couple of free passes. But you just have to bank on having a good draw, and hopefully you get the run that you need.
In the final, you played really, really well. You played fantastically in that Q School. When you came through, what were the thought processes moving forward? Was this a case of, I want to give this 100% now, unlike the first time, which it just wasn't able to do? Yeah,
it's kind of that second chance, because I had a tour card before that I was never able to use. And this time I knew I could use it. I had a good management company. They were looking after me, and that meant I was going to get to the events where I couldn't before. It was basically relief. I'm back. I finally get my shot. And even though I think it's probably, you know what I mean, 7, 8, 10 years overdue, but I had a shot, and that's what I was after.
At this point in time, New York was starting to become more ubiquitous, and you would have a tremendous run, not just in the North American Championship, but also in the main event, the US Darts Masters. That must have been something quite special for you.
Every match, every dart, every double I hit, the crowd just kept getting into it more and more, and you could feel the energy, and that was the hardest part. I still get goosebumps with them chanting. I hit that 167 against Luke. I actually thought the roof was going to blow off the place, and best feeling in the world.
In the final, it didn't go your way against Michael van Gerwen, but speaking from personal experience, playing the best player of this generation in an iconic place like that must be pretty high on your list of things that have happened.
Yeah, and like I said, I had to play the North American Championship that day as well. So I think Michael was my 7th match of the day. And for me, I'm not used to that kind of stamina. And it played a part because I did miss a few doubles, could have been 3-3. But at the same time, I'll never ever forget that experience.
One of your first ranking tournament wins was in Halifax, Nova Scotia. You're now a 6-time winner of that event. It's an incredible thing to say. You've won that this year, and I want to talk to you about the future, because you still believe that there's an awful lot to do.
Yeah, I taken a break this year. Like I said, the last year in the PDC didn't go very well for me. I think it all comes down to the traveling and the time changes and getting in late and extra connections and that sort of thing. And now that I've had a year off, I'm completely refreshed, and I actually feel like playing darts again, and I'm enjoying it.
It hasn't been an easy few years. We know what happened with the garage around 5 years ago, so you've had some turbulent times. But having that refresh now, there are plenty of opportunities to come back to. MODUS Super Series, I'm sure you would love to win this week. You'd love to win this series. But we can exclusively reveal now to our Pluto TV viewers that you're going to be playing in the next international pairs with a certain person from Medicine Hat, Dawson Marshall.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I know it's a CDC weekend back home. Dawson's not playing in the CDC, so spoke to Chris and he said, "Who do you think?" And it was a no-brainer. Dawson's held a tour card. He's one of my up and coming proteges, if you might. But he went back to school, got his things done, but he can still play darts, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Are you going to get some special shirts made?
You know it. Phoenix Sports and Apparel. We'll be making Canada shirts for that.
Good stuff. You're not going to be putting Oilers colours on it, are you?
Nah, he's a Calgary fan, so it wouldn't be good.
Yeah, you might want to go Sidney Crosby and Team Canada, right?
Well, it's more Connor McDavid. He did score the winner.
We'll agree to disagree on that one, but Jeff, it's fabulous to talk to you. Always is. All the very, very best with your career moving forward, and go Team Canada when you're playing here. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate it all.
Right,
Thank
Jeff is always a very, very dangerous player, and he's going to be doing this week because he's trying to keep everybody quiet.